Good morning, students. In yesterday's class, we started with the essay My Wood by E.M. Foster. In yesterday's class, we discussed about the question that was asked in the essay, and the moot question was, what is the effect of property upon one's character? I told you yesterday that the writer has given three answers to this. He says, number one, the impact of property upon one's character is that it makes you heavy. Number two, when you have property, you feel as if you have to enlarge it, okay? And the third, you have to do something about it. In yesterday's class, I explained to you what is the impact of property. That is the first point, that is, it makes you heavy. Writer says that if you own things, what is their effect on you? So the question is, what is the effect of the writer's wood on the writer? When he tries to find answers to this, he says that leave apart the psychological and the behavior aspect of the owner. He says he does not discuss the personal and the universal aspect of this. He points out the evil effect of owning a property. He says once we become the owner of a property, we wish to enlarge the property, the boundary of a property. We become greedy, and we always think of how to enlarge a property and to increase it. We want to possess the property of others. The owner of a plot of a land thinks he must have a boundary to protect his plot of land and the trees and plants growing therein. Then the problems arise. Children throw stones over the boundary. We think of increasing the boundary line. This desire to increase our property never ends even if we reach to the shore of the sea. He cites an example of Canute, the King of England, from 116 to 135. This particular king was flattered by his courtiers when he reproved by showing that he could not even make a wave of water obey him. The second example that he cites is the example of Alexander the Great, the conqueror of the 4th century BC. He wanted to conquer many lands but died at an early age of 34. He conquered a part of India also. He was son of Philip II of Macedon. He was educated by Aristotle. Foster gives his examples and he says that man's greed has no end. He hoped that England would soon be firing a rocket at the moon and then to Mars and other planets. There is no end to this. The author says that such immense possibilities make him sad. He has only a small wood. He does not see any chance of enlarging his plot of land. His small wood, it is neither rich in minerals nor in vegetable growth. Nothing grows in his wood except the blackberries. When the writer exclaimed these lines, he says that he was very happy and enlightened to see a bird sitting in his woods. The bird moved from here and there, and then finally the bird went to the neighbors. So the writer was a little disappointed by the behavior of the bird, and just because the bird went to the other neighbor's property, he had this idea in his mind that he should also enlarge his property. He says that property makes a man greedy. The man is so lost with worldly affairs that he forgets God. He has no desire left for spiritual joy and happiness. Foster further says that in this world, man is engrossed with three things: doing something, getting property, and enjoying the fruits of owning wealth. Activity or creation and enjoyment are both good things, but man thinks that he cannot get these things without owning property. Material wealth, Foster says, he thinks is essential for happiness in this world. So he is always busy trying to amass wealth, especially property. Property is the most attractive form of wealth. Man thinks that all other happy things of life can be got only when he owns property, but this is not the case. Man is deceived by the outward show of wealth. It is never real. It is all imaginative. However, in a world dominated by the concept of economic growth, people think that property is most essential for saving ourselves from starvation. Great men and writers have often told us that property is not enough. Yet we do not know how to get rid of this love of property. We even think that self-development and heroic deeds also depend upon economic growth. As a result of this, we are unhappy in spite of our owning property and other kinds of wealth. Foster talks about many things in the essay. He says property makes people so much entangled with lot of worldly things that they have no desire in them left for spiritual joy. Property makes people avaricious because the owner always plans to enlarge their property. And the third character, he says that property makes you restless. Foster looks at the problem in a realistic manner. He says that if we shun property altogether, we cannot live happily in this world. We normally live on a physical plane and we have to satisfy our basic physical needs. We cannot live on a purely spiritual basis. He says that on one hand there are people who have become stout, greedy and restless by the bad influence of possessing of property. On the other hand, religious books declare that all property is sinful. Foster argues that our life on this earth is material. We have a physical existence. We are not pure spirits. We need food and cloth and shelter. We are basically worldly beings and we cannot live without material things. The real problem, according to Foster, is that we have not learned how to keep our materialism within desirable limits. We need materialistic things for our survival, but we should not run after their ownership. He further says, we can use things without being their owners. Foster says that the great Italian poet Dante wrote that possession and loss are the same things. It is the greed of possession which brings evil to our life and spoils our behavior. In the concluding lines of the essay, Foster says he enumerates the evil effects of owning property on the psychology and behavior of men. Property, he says, makes people so much engrossed in worldly affairs, they lack spirituality. Spiritual life has no meaning for them. Property makes them greedy. They are busy increasing their property holdings. Property makes people restless. They have no mental peace. It makes them selfish. Foster personally felt these evil effects of owning property after he had purchased a small piece of land which he calls My Wood. He says that once we become owners of property, our desire to possess more and more property goes on increasing. As a result, all the evils of owning property develop in us. We lose all interest in spiritual advancement. We become greedy, we become restless, we become selfish, and we amass more and more wealth. Foster thinks that when the increase of private ownership becomes too great and evil, revolutions like the Bolshevik Revolution in the East Soviet Union take place. Evil-natured people rob us of our belongings. So basically, the writer has picked up his own achievement where he buys the property, a small piece of land. He was in a position to purchase this piece of land because of the wide circulation of the popular book that he wrote, A Passage to India. And through this particular essay, the writer has pointed out the three basic characters which, according to the question, is what is the impact of property upon one's character. According to author, we can sum up with the fact that according to author, property is necessary to some extent, but people have not learned to manage their materialism and carnality properly, with the result that they have become restless and are unable to enjoy what they have got. This is the take of the writer after summing up that property makes you heavy. Property, when you have property, you want to enlarge it. And thirdly, when you have property, you ought to do something about it. So when we critically analyze the essay, we are just going to go through the effect of property upon one's character. How are people affected by the ownership of a particular piece of a land or maybe many acres of land in juxtaposition with the views of the writer after he owns a small piece of land. So this much is there for this essay. In tomorrow's class, we are going to pick up another essay which deals with another general issue. Thank you.